Welcome back, everyone. Today I have a red-green law deck profile for you guys. This is an updated one, post-ban list. The only card that was affected was Radical Beam. Law was still doing really well in set 4 format for Japan, but all of them did play for Radical Beam. This is my list going into set 4 because I still think Law will still do really well in the set 4 format, even without Radical Beam at 4. And the reason I'm doing the profile early is because simply there's no green or red cards coming out in set 4 that you really want to play. Maybe a couple of the event cards, but that's about it. So with that, let's get into it. So of course, we should all know what the red-green law leader does by now. Pay 2 if you have 5 characters. Return 1 of your character to your hand, then play 1 character with a cost of 5 or less from your hand that is a different color. So swapping it out, basically your 1 cost, trade it up in your hand for a 5 cost. Basically get a lot of value out of it. All right, so we'll start with your searcher Namis. Of course, you really want to fill up your board really quickly, very standard stuff. With this version, there are 13 targets that you can grab for Nami. And this card can grab, used to be able to, you can grab your Radical Beam, but now that we don't have it, yeah, there's fewer targets, but 13 is still pretty high. 1 out of 5 should be a Straw Hat. You just can't grab other Namis. So we do play more Straw Hats, but you can't grab her. So 4 of this Nami, a lot of good value, fill up your board, but be careful with this because you really don't want to fill up your board with a bunch of these because you really do want to keep on swapping out your cards. You want to get the values off your board. And once you have one of these out, unless you can keep on switching it out for the green 5 cost in your hand, then you really don't want too many. You want to have a healthy balance of maybe 1, maybe 2 of these on the board, and then some attackers, and then a lot of little blockers. Next, we have 4 Makino. Makino is good because I can drop it out, make this Nami hit, and then bounce the Makino back to hand. So the 2K, I can still use it as a 2K, pump up this Nami, basically enough to hit, and then play a green. 4 1-cost Chopper, and this will be the last 1-cost red that we have. Basically easy, fill up the board quickly. Next, we have your Dodon Search Top 5. Grab a red level or 1 cost. We are playing 16 as we just showed, and this is the only card that is a searcher that will care about the color. For Brooks, Brook is really great because he will fill up a spot on the board and you don't lose anything because he'll immediately attach the 2 Dawn it costs to play him. So a lot of times when I do it, I can attach it to the leader, hitting for 7, while 7 is still a good number. Coming up into the set 4 format, 7 might not be the best number anymore because there's going to be, not to say that there are 3K counters that, like normal shield 3K counters, but there are people playing the that Straw Hat event card where you discard a card and it's a 3K. Navy already has it in set 3. I believe there's another one. I think Purple had it. Purple has one, and then I think Blue also has one now. But the Straw Hat one will be coming out. So, I mean, it's still 2 cards still basically 2 cards. And then this is also a good 2K counter, so. All right, so here is something that I personally like that I don't see a lot of people playing. Monkey D. Luffy, it's a supernova, so you can grab it off of Bonnie's. It's cheap to play, and then it attacks for 7. So right now where it's still good to attack for 7, and it's a 2K counter. And a lot of the time I actually do use it out as bait because I can drop him out, set it up for the next turn, attack, and then I either restand him with the green law to attack again for 7, or if I don't have that law, hopefully I would have the other law to bounce it back to hand, drop it out so it's standing again. So, and then sometimes where I do want them to use like a small attack so I can actually get the most out of my block, they actually do try to target this, and then I actually can, trick them into attacking this so I can use my blockers really efficiently. So that's the reason I play this over the 3 cost Zoro that gets a permanent 1,000 with a Dawn on him on both turn from the starter deck. And the fact that he's a 2K counter and, you know, still searchable. Great card. Just 2 5-cost Luffy's, just for the rush. And then, of course, 2 Dawns on him when attacking. Blocker, great. 1 Rat Beam, would play 4 if we could. No, I don't want to switch out for guard point. Not absolutely necessary considering the amount of small blockers we have. So just the one that we're allowed to play. Of course, MVP, 4 Trafalgar Laws. You know, bounce back your red, drop this out, bounce a card, and then play a 3 cost or less. Basically, a lot of the times I'm using this to bounce, you know, searchers, drop them back out, and then replay, drop them back out and search again for the value. And then 3 of the Restanding Law. This law restands another supernova. Set one of your supernova or heart pirates with a cost of 5. So you can reset himself, you can reset this law, you can reset the Luffy, etc. The reason I'm playing 3 is simply because, you know, I don't want him too early before I have any other supernovas out. So, you know, like if I just drop him for bouncing a red back, well, I'm not really going to get any effects out of it because most likely the only supernovas I have will be small stuff like Beige or Bonnie. So just 3 of those. Next, we have 4 Beige, 1 cost blocker, basically the chopper, and then because it's also searchable by supernova. Then we have your 4 Jewelry Bonnies, searching for all the supernovas, also not color restricted. And then there are 23 supernovas in this deck, so you're more likely to hit her than anybody else because she can also grab herself as well because she's a supernova. 2 Killers. This is just a personal choice I like as well, just for the early stuff. And, you know, I'm setting up a board and then I can block early if necessary. A lot of the times you don't block early, but sometimes my hand isn't great. So if I do see this, I can, you know, you drop it, attach the Dawn, and then since I would already have like a couple other 1 cost stuff out there, then I can, you know, trigger the draw effect to basically try to draw into something better. And then 2 Paradise Waterfall. I really like Paradise Waterfall because, you know, since you're playing a big blocker, you can block and then, you know, trigger it and then unsuspend and then try blocking again. This is why I like baiting them with the Luffy. I can, you know, bait a small attack, let's say it's a 4 or 5k, with the 5 cost law, completely nullify it, and then when they try to attack into something else, I can either use, if they go too big, I can sacrifice a little blocker away, and then if they try to do more small attacks, then if it's not like a 7 or something, I could just throw this out, block my leader or whatever else, and then unsuspend the 6 cost and just get so much value out of this card. And its trigger is not bad, but usually I actually don't use the trigger too often. If necessary, like if they're rushing me down and have stuff that blows up the board, etc., then sometimes, but I really do like this in hand most of the time. The other options you guys could play would be the 3 cost Rush Zoro. I would prefer that over the starter deck one that gets an extra 1,000. I mean, if they're both gonna be no shield, I'd rather go with the one that can immediately drop out and rush. This is really a slow burner deck. You might take 1 or 2 damage early just to get the cards in hand, but once you have the board set, you're supposed to like slowly burn your opponent to death with 1 or 2 damage a turn and just keep on sacrificing your little blockers. Don't drag it out too long, because if you drag it out too long, they're going to get their bigger stuff on board, and then it's going to hurt a lot more, especially when you're at that point, you're going to be desperate to search for your blockers. But this is probably my law build going into the set 4 format. I really do need to play test it against the new decks. I want to see how it does against Dofi, because Dofi being able to unsuspend 2 of their Dawns, they can punk Gibson your board early and then start just wiping it out, which can really hurt. So that might be like that. The advantage would go to the die roll, because then you really don't want Dofi to go first especially since you're law anyway and you want to go second for the extra card and then for the extra Don. But we'll see. I'll record a couple matches when the set drops. I'm really excited. I haven't decided if I'm going to play this Dofi or Zorro for the Tennessee Regionals yet. I will make a decision, and then I will record a deck profile for whatever I decide to play, and then a couple matches as well, just some practice. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you like the channel.